At 17, I thought getting a job at a small sleepaway camp would be the perfect escape. It was my first real job, and more importantly, it meant spending an entire month away from my parents' house. I didn't exactly come from an enviable background, so the idea of being somewhere else, surrounded by other teenagers, felt like freedom. The camp itself was small. There were only 5 main buildings: the boys' dormitory, the girls' dormitory, the counselors' dormitory, a small bathroom building, and the main building, which everyone called the shack. Inside the shack were the cafeteria, main office, and nurses' quarters, where injured or sick campers were taken. The children had a 9 o'clock curfew. That didn't mean they had to be asleep. It simply meant they weren't allowed outside their dorm buildings afterward. The counselors had more freedom, especially once the campers were settled for the night. One counselor I became close with was Johnny. He was 3 years older than me, but we got along immediately. Then came Friday night. Because it was the beginning of the weekend, 4 of us decided to sneak away into the woods for a while. Johnny, me, and 2 female counselors headed beyond the main campgrounds where we thought nobody would bother us. We were talking and smoking when one of the girls suddenly stopped in the middle of a sentence. There was a sound somewhere among the trees. A sharp crunch, leaves being stepped on. All 4 of us turned toward it at exactly the same time. For several seconds, nobody spoke. Then came the flash. It was so bright that for an instant, the darkness around us disappeared. None of us understood what we'd just seen. A camera? A flashlight? Something else? Whatever it was, the mood changed instantly. We abandoned the rest of our smoke and hurried out of the woods, moving far faster than we had entered them. The moment we reached the campground, I felt safer. But then another possibility occurred to us. Maybe one of the supervisors had seen us. Maybe that flash had been a photograph. And if someone had proof that we were smoking weed, we could lose our jobs. Within minutes, the 4 of us separated and rushed back toward our dorms, each of us carrying the same uncomfortable question. Who had been standing in those woods with us? And why had they taken our picture? Normally, I could have convinced myself that the flash had been nothing. But marijuana made me extremely paranoid. Once an idea entered my head, I couldn't simply let it go. It kept growing until every possibility seemed dangerous. I lay in my bed staring into the darkness, replaying the flash over and over. What if it really was a camera? What if a supervisor had followed us? What if they already had our picture? Eventually, I couldn't stand not knowing. Every counselor had a key to the shack, so I decided to go there myself. I would find whoever was still working, admit what we'd done, and deal with whatever happened next. At least then I wouldn't spend the entire night imagining the worst. I unlocked the cafeteria entrance and stepped inside. The door swung shut behind me with a heavy slam. The building was almost completely dark. The only illumination came from the hallway leading toward the main office. I started walking that way, listening to my own footsteps against the wooden floor. Then I saw the office. The light was off. Nobody appeared to be working. I was alone, or at least I thought I was. A moment later, I heard the cafeteria exit door slam again, the exact door I'd just entered through. I stopped. Had someone seen me come inside? Had someone followed me? I quickly moved behind a wall where 2 hallways intersected and crouched out of sight. From there, I cautiously leaned forward, waiting for whoever had entered to appear. Nothing. No footsteps. No voice. No movement. I stayed there, staring toward the cafeteria entrance. Then I noticed something that made my stomach drop. A head was slowly visible around the doorway. Someone was peering into the hallway, and they were doing exactly what I had been doing. They were watching me. For a moment, neither of us moved. Then I realized I didn't care about being quiet anymore. I ran. My shoes hammered against the wooden floor as I sprinted toward the nearest exit. I burst outside and headed straight for the counselor's dormitory. Only 3 counselors were still awake in the common area. Johnny was one of them. I told him what I'd seen. I didn't know whether he believed me completely. He probably knew I was high and assumed my paranoia was getting the better of me. Still, he locked the main entrance. And that detail stayed with me. Because if Johnny truly thought I was imagining everything, why did he lock the door? Johnny told me to go to my room and lock the door. I did exactly that. But sleep wasn't coming easily. The questions from the night kept circling through my head. The flash in the woods. The door slamming inside the shack. The person watching me from the cafeteria doorway. I kept wondering whether all of it could somehow be explained. Maybe someone had been messing with us. Maybe a supervisor had been nearby. Maybe I had simply misinterpreted what I saw. Then the room became completely dark. The counselors' rooms had beds positioned beside windows without blinds. On clear nights, moonlight would spill across the room. That night, there was no moonlight. The sky was covered by clouds. Outside my window was nothing but darkness. I had been lying there for what felt like hours when the room suddenly filled with light. For one confused second, I thought lightning had flashed. But there was no thunder, no rain, nothing. I turned toward the window. There was someone outside. A human silhouette stood beyond the glass. I froze. The figure was just far enough away that I couldn't make out a face. I could only see the shape of a person standing there in the darkness. Then they noticed me looking and raised a hand. They waved. That was enough. I jumped out of bed and ran into the hallway, shouting for Johnny. He had already gone to sleep. I slammed my fists against his door until he finally opened it. The guy who's been following me is at my window, I told him. Johnny didn't argue. He came with me to check. But by the time we reached my room, the person was gone. The window showed only darkness. Johnny looked at me. Are you still high? No. I told him it had been hours since we'd smoked. I asked whether we should call the police. He said no. Instead, he told me I could sleep on the floor in his room if that would make me feel safer. I gathered my blankets and stayed there. Looking back, I think Johnny was scared too. He had seen the flash in the woods. He knew what I told him about the shack, and now he'd seen how frightened I was. Still, neither of us understood the most important question. If someone had really been following me, how long had they been watching? The next morning, I went straight to the main office. I told one of the supervisors everything that had happened. I explained about the woods, the flash, the person inside the shack, and the figure outside my window. I even admitted that we had been smoking. She didn't seem to know exactly what to make of the situation. She didn't call the police. Instead, she gave me permission to contact them myself if anything else happened. Her concern was the safety of the children, and I understood that. For the rest of the camp stay, nothing happened. At least, nothing that I noticed. The days passed. The campers eventually went home, and then the final day arrived. The counselors were preparing to pack everything up and leave. The camp was almost empty, and the atmosphere was completely different without children moving between the buildings. That morning, I woke up and looked toward my window. There were 4 photographs taped to it. I stared at them, trying to understand what I was seeing. The first photograph showed me in the woods. It was zoomed in on me standing there with Johnny and the 2 female counselors on the night of the flash. The second photograph showed me asleep in my bed. Someone had taken a picture of me while I was completely unaware. Then there was the third. It showed me entering the shack on the same night we had been smoking. That photograph answered a question I had been trying to dismiss ever since I heard the cafeteria door slam. I hadn't imagined being watched. Someone had been there. Someone had followed me into the building. And someone had photographed me. Then I looked at the 4th picture. It wasn't a photograph of me. It was a close-up of my license plate. That was when the fear changed. Until that moment, I had been afraid that someone was spying on me. Now I had to wonder why. I took all 4 photographs down and brought them to the same supervisor I'd spoken to the previous day. She kept them as evidence. She also wrote down my entire account, including the part about us smoking in the woods. Standing there, looking at those pictures in her hands, I realized something that frightened me more than the figure at my window. Whoever took them hadn't simply stumbled across me. They had followed me. They had watched me. And they had made sure I knew it. The photograph of my license plate bothered me more than anything else. A picture of me in the woods was disturbing. A picture of me sleeping was worse. But a picture of my license plate felt different. It was specific, personal. It made me wonder whether the person behind the camera had wanted to identify me after I left the camp. Could they track me down? Did they know where I lived? Was the photograph meant as a warning? Or had there been some completely different reason for taking it? I never found out. That was many years ago now. The camp ended. We all went our separate ways. I never learned who had been in those woods that Friday night, who had followed me into the shack, or who had stood outside my window and waved. There was no final confrontation, no confession, no explanation waiting for us at the end. The supervisor kept the photographs, and after that, nothing else happened. But that doesn't make the experience easier to explain, because the photographs prove that at least some of my fear had been justified. The flash in the woods really could have been a camera. The person inside the shack really had been watching. The silhouette outside my window really had been there. And someone had taken a photograph of me while I slept. Even now, I don't know whether the person responsible ever intended to hurt me. Maybe they were simply watching. Maybe they were trying to frighten me. Maybe the pictures meant something I never understood. But there is one detail I still can't get past. That person knew where I was. They knew when I was alone. They knew which building I entered. They knew where I slept. And before disappearing, they photographed the one thing that could potentially lead them to me after I left, the license plate on my vehicle. I went to that camp expecting a month of freedom, friends, and memories from my first job. Instead, I left with 4 photographs and a question that has never been answered. Who was watching us in those woods? And why did they want me to know that I had been seen? I still don't know. And perhaps that's the part that has stayed with me the longest. Nothing ever happened again. But I never forgot the moment that figure raised a